I'll be teaching you how to make a quick timed event. This can be used for unlocking chests or anything else you decide. I haven't tested this in a battle. This is mainly only for events on the map, such as what I'm going to show you today, a quick timed event to unlock a chest. Showing you how to make a quick timed event. Getting into this, all I did, as you can see, background handle, I just made a couple of things, such as a blank background so you couldn't see the player. The box for the QTE event is just a square box, and then I made a orange marker, which is like the end point, and a red marker, which the player will be trying to get onto the orange marker. There will be a little bit of trial and error because different people create different asset sizes. For instance, I believe my background is like 500 by 500. Everyone's screen size for MV is the same though, so you're gonna have to figure out your X and Y's and do the math accordingly. I can't really help with that, but for this example, I use 30 and 50 for my start points. And then you want to turn on self switch B before A, because if A gets turned on first, then it'll go to this page without turning on the B that you need. So make sure self switch B is on first, and then self switch A, and make sure this is set to action button and same as players. So now that that's out of the way, let's say you have your assets done and you figured out the X and Y for each asset. These are the starting places for the assets. So like the craft background menu, 408, 312 is about center of the screen. So it'll cover the player's entire screen. And then you're gonna have to figure out where you want the orange liner to be and the red liner. Make sure that the lines are upper left. For whatever reason, when I did upper right, or center, my bad. When I did center, I couldn't get the orange marker all the way to the right like I wanted to at the end of the screen for whatever reason. So yeah, just make sure those are upper left. These right here are the starting points for this. You do want to create two variables, X and Y. This will keep track of where this is going to be once we start moving it. Now that you have your two variables made and you figured out the starting point of the red marker where it's going to be, and you have these two switches turned on and the rest, we can move on to the second page. You can start, you don't have to put these comments, but I do anyways just so I know what it does. Start by creating this. You want to create a conditional branch that says if cancel button is pressed down. This will help our player exit the menu if they hit escape or whatever their cancel button could be bind to. You just erase the pictures, you use the erase picture command and however many pictures you use. So I used 4 pictures, the background, the box, and the 2 lines, red and orange. And then you want to turn off all the switches so this doesn't continue to run while the player's exited out of it. Make sure that your priority again is the same level as the character and the trigger is parallel so it can take the player's input at any time. If it's set to anything but parallel, it won't work correctly. Going from where we had self switch B turned on, that turns this on that originally moves the red cursor or red line to the right. So you want to create a conditional branch that says if self switch B is turned on, wait 1 frame. That way it doesn't just constantly do it and possibly mess something up. I just like to add 1 frame as a buffer. And then you want it to add 20 to your X variable, which I named cursor X. That'll move the picture 20 to the right every 1 frame. Make sure you have move picture and then whatever number your red line is, and make sure it equals your variable of X and Y, and you can just put the duration as 1 second or 1 frame. Next, we'll be handling the boundaries. The boundaries is basically, you have your red line, it starts at the starting point that we set on the first page, and then it goes to the right until it hits the end of the quote-unquote boundary. You want to set this, I set it to 700. I feel like that's a good spot. It's towards the end of the screen. So basically you want to create a conditional branch that says if your cursor X variable is more than 700, and then under it have control self switch C turn on. What this does is it goes to our cursor movement handle, and if self switch C is on, turn B off, wait 1 frame, and then minus 20 from our X cursor, and then it moves the picture minus 20. The reason you want to turn off self switch B when self switch C is turned on is because if you don't, then this will conflict with this. So this self switch B is what we originally turned on, so the picture will move to the right, or the red line to the orange line, it will move to the right. But if we don't turn off self switch B, it'll add and subtract at the same time, which obviously will just cause the cursor to stay in place. So yeah, you want to have your self switch C turned on when the cursor is at 700, which would be the end of the screen, so it would move backwards. Then you want to make this right below this, so your other cursor, this would be the starting point of your red cursor. If cursor X's position is more than or equal to 30, then turn off self switch C and turn B on. What this does is if it goes below our starting point of 30, it'll turn self switch C off, which is used to subtract it or make the picture move backwards or to the left, and turn self switch B on, which ends up making our photo or red line move towards the right. Again, make sure your move picture is equal to your X and Y. Make sure you turn off wait for completion and set it to 1 frame. Finally, what you'll want to do is create another conditional branch under if self switch B is on under the end section. That way it doesn't only run if the self switch B is on. You want the conditional branch to say if your variable cursor X is equal to 690 or wherever you set your orange line to be. So if you set it to 500, then make this around 500, maybe 490. You'll have to do a little bit of trial and error to figure out the exact position that you need. Under if your variable X, cursor X, is equal to 690, you want another conditional branch that says if player presses the button OK, then erase all the pictures so it doesn't show the QTE anymore. Then you can have any text that you want, like you beat it, here's some reward, here's gold, you know, whatever you want to put in the chest. And then you can put like change items to give the player whatever, or you can give them XP, give them a stake, give them TP, HP, MP, give them a skill, whatever you want you can give the player at the end of this. You don't have to put a text box, you don't have to give them anything. This can be used for numeral things, but this is what I made it for. I'm going to give the player something for completing a QTE on a chest. And then after that, just turn self switch D on and create another page with self switch D as the condition, and just have the chest open and say you beat the QTE or whatever you want. The chest is empty, whatever. I do want to add on really quick before this video is finished that your cursor or how fast you're moving it, you can set it to whatever you want, but I personally use 20, and then you obviously have to do the math accordingly. So since I went by 20s, I also set my thing to equal 690. You're gonna have to do a little bit of math on your own to figure out where the cursor is supposed to be and when to end it. And after you have everything finished with the variables and the event, this is what your QuickTime event should look like, or at least pretty similar to this. You don't have to have that text, I just put it there so the player knows they have to complete a QuickTime event to get whatever's in the chest. After the player hits enter, that's when our second page, the parallel, comes in, and it started off with adding 20, it hit the boundary at the far right over here, and then it started subtracting 20 because it hit the boundary. And as you can see, it just goes back and forth until the player hits enter on this part right here. You beat the QTE, now go and follow, you know, you can have whatever you want here, the items that the player got, whatever.